Okay, y'all, welcome back to my channel. I am so excited about today's video. And if you can't tell by the t-shirt, today we are going to be talking about a Nicole Fiorina book, and I am so... I have not felt this way about a book since Releasing 10 came out a year and a few months ago. It came out in May of 2025 and it put me in the worst reading slump of my entire life, and that is literally what I am feeling happening right now. I literally finished reading this book last night and I have been up all day listening to the playlist, theorizing, coming up with 1,000,001 different things that is going to be happening in the next book. But today we're going to be talking about Call Me Baby by Nicole Fiorina. Now this is side A, but last night I finished side B. I pre-ordered side B's hardcover, like special edition. Do you see that? It looks like a vinyl record. That is the prettiest edges I think I've ever seen. This is probably the most beautiful book that I own. It is my favorite book that I own. It is written out like a record. It is literally one of my prized possessions. This one, side A, I got at the beginning of this year, and oh my god, I cannot wait for side B's hardcover to come in. I'm pretty sure the edges are going to be red in like the vinyl spray. I'm so excited. I am genuinely starting to fear that this is going to be much worse than the Releasing 10 book slump, because in Releasing 10, it was a prequel to 5 other books in which I knew already that Hugh would end up with Katie. Like when I opened Releasing 10, I knew for a fact that by the end, Hugh ends up with Katie. That was inevitable. You could not escape that. In this book, the way my mind has been blown, I don't even have words for it. I can't believe that I read what I read. I can't even believe that this existed. I know a book is so incredible and life-changing when I wake up and I feel so lucky that I got to read it, which sounds so dramatic, and it is, but I'm serious when I say it. I cannot believe that I am lucky enough to have found Nicole Fiorina and found her books, and I got to experience the reading experience that I had last night. I waited for everyone in my house to be asleep. My husband was out. As soon as I read those last 150 pages, I was losing my mind. So the back half of this video is going to be discussing spoilers, but I figured since this was about the release of side B, I just really want to talk about side A first. And I've talked about side A in a few of my other videos, but never in a dedicated video for Nicole Fiorina. This series is so incredible that literally as soon as I shut the book, I knew today I was gonna have to do a book chat with you guys and discuss what all went down in this series, because I am just absolutely blown away. But first, we're gonna get into what is Call Me Baby? What is this book even about? So the first book follows Allie and Andrew. Allie is a 24-year-old girl living in New York who her parents have passed away, and her father left her a huge music label that she is eventually, when she turns 25, she is going to become the CEO of. Her father had a vision for music and artists that she inherited, and he was really proud of her, and he left this empire to her. But because he passed away when she was only 16 years old, that empire is being managed by her stepfather, whose name is Raymond. And oh my god, is it crazier from there. So she has a lot of trauma associated with intimacy, and she has established that she has a contract where she keeps boys on call to do things with her. Oh my god, I'm getting so uncomfortable. Intimate things with her, but there are no feelings involved, no relationship. They can't even call her by her name. They have to call her baby at all times. And so it follows Allie and what that is like, except she meets our male main character who has a reputation of his own. He is Andrew Harding. Where he's from, they call him the Myth. The man, the myth, the legend. He is Andrew Harding. He gives girls their fantasies, and it is their obviously sexual fantasies, and he does not do relationships, he does not do dates, he just gives girls what they want and then he's done with them. They talk about him as if he is a myth, as if he is something of legends. And so when he is approached by girls, they know exactly what the deal is and they know not to ever ask for more, even though some of them try, but none ever succeed. And these two characters meet. This book is essentially about them realizing their feelings for each other and working their way through that. They both have a lot of trauma and a lot of not super positive feelings when it comes to intimacy, and they kind of have to navigate their feelings and navigate how this new reality is going to work with the two of them together. They are soulmates, they are star-crossed lovers. This book, when I read it at the beginning of the year, really took my breath away. I love Nicole Fiorina's writing style. This book is especially different though because it's written almost in like song form. I'll insert some clips so you can kind of get an idea. Like, the book is 900 pages. But it doesn't feel like 900 pages because they're not in like full paragraphs. It is incredible, and this is just side A. We didn't even get into what side B is about. And then side B is really a continuation. Literally, it picks up exactly where it left off in side A. This year I have really gotten into reading fantasy books for the first time in my life. Reading fantasy books has made me read in a very like analytical way, where I need to know where every character is at all times and what they're doing, and when they're not on the page you should still be weary of where they are and what is all going on. And then reading the Boys of Tommen series has literally turned me into a Sherlock Holmes investigator. Literally, we theorize about what is going to happen in Claiming 10 every single day over on TikTok. It's always, when is the book coming out so we could find out? How is Hugh gonna find out everything with Lizzie? So reading fantasy and reading Boys of Tommen, as soon as I opened side B, my brain was working freaking overtime. By the time I got to the end of side B, I was speechless on the floor. I was staring at a wall. I will never listen to this song the same ever again, because when I was reading the last chapter of Call Me Baby side B, I had this song playing on a loop, and literally as soon as the harmonica sounded, what occurred during the harmonica part of this song took my breath away. I was hysterically crying. I could not believe what I was reading, and that is mainly what today's video is going to be about. I need to discuss, for the people who have read this, well, now it's a series. I thought this was going to be a duology, but now it is going to be a series because at the end we find out that side C and D is coming, which I'm so excited about. Okay, so if you have read side A and B, I'm going to mark you safe for the rest of this video, and you could come forth with us while we discuss theories and while I basically unload the mess that is my head since closing side B last night. Because if you have not read these books, I am begging you to save this video, come back later, and once you have read through side A and side B, come back, give me your theories, let's discuss, let's chat, because I cannot believe what I read. I genuinely have not felt this way about a book since releasing 10. I was so excited to find out that this is going to be a series that's going to continue on. So if you have not read Side A and Side B, just please come back. Please discuss with us. It's going to be a grand time. But now I need to get into spoilers. So major spoiler warning going forward from here for this entire series. I mean, right now we're only up to Side B, but if you haven't read it, I am giving a fair warning here. Like, we are going to be talking about the big spoiler. If you're still around, I'm assuming that you have read all of the Call Me Baby books, Side A and Side B, and you are here to discuss what happened at the end of Side B that has had me staring at a wall for the last almost 24 hours at this point. It shook me so hard that I knew as soon as I closed it, I said, I need to talk to someone about this because I can't even process what just happened. And it devastated me in a way that books rarely do. I should have seen this coming. I was so mad at myself for not seeing this coming. I mean, the way Nicole Fiorina has structured this book, I just thought there was no way. And now looking back, I'm like, of course. My first clue that something was up with Andrew was the fact that in both books, we never ever got Andrew's POV. And something that Rebecca Yarros explained about not writing about in the dragons POVs in the Fourth Wing series is that they just know too much, and if you get their POV, it's basically going to ruin what's coming. So as soon as I was catching on to the fact that we were not going to get an Andrew POV chapter, even though we have chapters of the book that are specifically about him outside of Allie, they're written in the third person. So even though you're witnessing what Andrew is up to and how he gets the title of the myth of Andrew Harding, we don't ever get his actual thoughts and feelings and his takes on what that is actually like. We are essentially led to assume what he was going through. I was literally looking through my notes from reading Side A at the beginning of this year. Literally, I was like, why do I feel so bad for him? This poor kid. Why are they doing this to him? I feel like he doesn't like this. Like, I will literally just put all my notes on the screen because I was so concerned for him and I felt so bad that he was basically being used by all these people and getting nothing in return out of it. And he seemed like depressed by it, if I'm being honest. And so when I caught on to the fact that in this book there was still no POV chapters from him, I knew something was going to happen. Specifically with Andrew, there was something that Andrew knew that Nicole did not want us to know yet. Another indication that we were about to experience like a literal atomic bomb was that after Allie tells Andrew that she loves him and she's not expecting any words in return and they're happy, I knew something was coming about Andrew. And then I started to put some pieces together. Like, we had no answers about his secret phone. We had no answers about the money found under the bed. We had no answers about how his mom miraculously got back on the transplant list after being inactive. She even points that out when they're in the literal hospital, that she was inactive on the list. When he got the phone call about the transplant list and he wasn't immediately like excited about it, he was stressed. I could tell you that. He was stressed out when he got that phone call, and then he started to panic when it was going through. That was my indication that more is happening. I still had like 10% of the book left and I was just confused. It seems like everything is working out. Why is there still 10% of this book left? So if you read both books, I assume you're aware that Allie's biggest insecurity is intimacy and people leaving her. The whole reason she doesn't want to let Andrew in is because she is afraid that once she does, her theory about love will be proven right and he will eventually either die or leave her. And that is essentially the entire point of Allie's baby contract, is so that she has control over who can come and who can go into her life, what levels of intimacy are acceptable and not acceptable. She literally has punishments for people for when they cross the line, essentially, and we have seen that in side B. And it's so funny to me how in side A, Andrew has such an issue with the contract when that's essentially what he had been doing to girls for free, basically. He was literally a boy for all of these other girls. But when it came to baby, or it came to Allie, he was not okay with that because he knew that their relationship was different. The thing that shocked me most when I was done with side B and I went back to side A and I reread the ending one more time, because my gut was just telling me that there was something in that ending, because, and I talked about this in a previous video where I said the end of side A left me like confused and sad and angry, and I literally wrote notes in my Kindle app. Does this mean that everything with Allie is false? Like, is he just using his persona on Allie? Is he using the myth on Allie? From reading all of side A, I did not get that impression, but then when you get to Andrew's like final chapter, basically like snaps at Elle at the end of side A, and he basically tells her like he has no problem faking emotions and that he feels nothing for her. So at the end of side A, we essentially learn that Andrew is 100% capable of this behavior that is exposed at the end of side B. But I have a crazy crackpot theory about where this story could potentially be going. I was actually very surprised to see in side B that a chapter from side A actually came back, but from like Andrew's third person POV, basically. So at the very beginning of side A, it's literally like 30 pages in, Allie and Sally are coming out of a bar and they are rapping and they're singing, and it's like this big funny moment because Allie is mixing Salt and Pepper with Aerosmith, and she like even says like how no one would think to do that, but because she is who she is, it just like came naturally. We get that chapter from Andrew's POV. I don't know if y'all read it, I'm sure you remember. She sees a couple in an alley getting freaky, and the guy starts to like talk to her, but she like can't see him. We find out in side B that that was Andrew, which like blew my mind. As soon as that chapter started in side B, I had to open up my Kindle app on my phone and just like find it in side A because I knew I had read it before. We find out that that's really the first time that they meet, essentially. Even though Allie does not recognize him and doesn't see his face, Andrew, we learn, sees her and knows who she is. And so he immediately like falls in love with her, which is essentially what happens when she notices him at Type. I am now convinced that that was a planned meeting. Now, a couple chapters even before this, when we get Andrew's like third person POV, I'm not gonna get too graphic here on YouTube, but he does his, what he calls his 3-step check, and he makes a small comment that I think means a whole lot more now, where he's essentially looking for his person. He is convinced that he will someday like meet the girl for him, his girl. He is going to meet her one day, and he will immediately know just with his eyes or with his senses that this is her. And that is exactly what happens when he sees Allison in the alley, and then he gets up, leaves the girl that he's with, and then chases after Allie. He literally gets charged with assault and harassment for accidentally elbowing someone, I think in the nose, if I'm remembering correctly. and the police were there. The police see it. It's all like chaos, hell breaks loose, and Andrew gets arrested. Allie's abuser, Hunter, actually points that out to her a little bit earlier in the book, that he has a record and Andrew is no better than Hunter. We eventually learn that it was just a misunderstanding and an accident, but that is their initial first meeting. And inside A, what we are meant to believe is their real first meeting is when they're at Type 45. She notices him, he notices her. It's like love at first sight. It is one of my favorite meets I've ever read in a book. Come to find out, when we get to side B, that's not even the first time that Andrew has seen Allie. And I thought that was so interesting. But where my theory comes in, I believe that this is really where the whole Andrew and Raymond situation is born. Essentially, my theory is that Raymond is really Roger's father. Roger is Andrew's best friend that he grew up playing baseball with. Roger had feelings for Andrew, and Andrew never brought up those feelings because he didn't want to lose his like one true best friend. And so we learn essentially that Roger's parents 10 years before, in 2014, get a divorce and he leaves her. I'm pretty sure it's even stated in the book that he was cheating on her. I believe that was with Allison's mother. Allie's mom and Raymond essentially have an affair and they eventually get together. We know Allie's mom dies when she is 13 years old, and then her father passes away 3 years later when she's 16 years old, and that is when the company is left to Raymond. I think the only way that could actually happen is if her mother was like part owner in the company, and when she passed away, it went to her husband to take care of until Allie came of age. I think Roger, being Raymond's father, would also explain how, one, Raymond would know about the myth of Andrew Harding and what he does with girls, but also Andrew's financial status and his situation with his mom. We know Andrew tried to donate his liver to his mom, but because his mom started drinking again, she needed another liver. And so I believe that if Raymond is Roger's father, that puts him very close to Andrew. I know there was no chapters where they like interact with each other beforehand, but I think it would make the most sense that if Raymond knew, maybe hearing from his son about Andrew, we know Roger was very envious and jealous of Andrew. We know that he was in love with Andrew. I think Raymond maybe learned about Andrew through his son and saw a perfect opportunity to manipulate Allie with him and make basically the most unavailable man like obsessed with her, so that she would basically fold and go crazy when it's revealed that she does love Andrew. As soon as those words come out of her mouth, it is literally like a series of unfortunate events that occur between the two of them. He basically is right. Like, he gets her to fall in love with him, and when it's not reciprocated, she immediately goes off the deep end. She runs away to Pennsylvania. She vanishes for 9 days. She's getting calls from her artists on her label and she's ignoring them. I think he's trying to make her look unfit to take over the company and unfit to essentially like be responsible and do her job, that when the contract does come out, she looks basically crazy, which is kind of what she does. When she comes back from being in Pennsylvania, she trashes her father's guitar and throws it into the pool, and it like breaks Andrew's heart when he sees how quick she was to basically lose her mind, all because he doesn't give her those 3 words essentially. But it would also explain how Raymond would be aware of like Andrew's financial situation and knowing that Andrew would do essentially anything for money. I mean, we find out inside B that he essentially sells his virginity, which is really sad. but he was willing to do that. So I think maybe Raymond does a little bit of digging into Andrew, finds out like that he is really short on cash, really needs the money to help his mom's, really down on his luck. And he essentially gives him an offer that he can't refuse, basically his mom's second chance at life, in order for him to take this company from this very young girl who he has been manipulating, using, and abusing this entire time. And if Andrew was willing to do that for money, I could see, especially how he doesn't get attached to people, I could see how this would be very appealing to him. And Raymond basically using their weaknesses like against each other, not realizing that they would essentially like fall in love. When Andrew comes back to the penthouse and he finds her, he literally says to her that he has messed up in so many ways, but he's counting on the fact that their feelings for each other are so strong that she's not gonna give up on him so easily. But as soon as I read that he said, "I messed up," we are led to believe the first time you read it that it's about him not reciprocating the "I love you" or not giving her those words. And I think it's essentially because he knows that she is eventually going to find out what he did for his moms and how she was essentially the price. Like, he sold her out to get his mom a new liver. And I think the reason for this is essentially the timing. Allie turned, 24 in November, and by the next November she's going to be 25, ready to take on her position. Raymond is already seeing that she can take on the role of leader, and I think he is panicking. I think his deadline is coming, and he has set all of this in motion, the contract, the addiction, Andrew, to essentially steal the company from Allie. And it's her father's like life work, and her father was like her hero. And essentially the same day that Allie comes back is the day that Andrew gets the phone call that a liver is available for his mother. And as soon as he gets that phone call, he's not excited about it. He is very quiet, he's very nervous, and Allie is kind of confused, like, why isn't he excited? And she's telling him, like, this is good news, like, you should be happy. I think the reason he's not happy is because he knows that, one, he's gotten her to fall in love with him, and two, that now that his mom is getting this liver, it is literally about to come out what he has been doing to her. And I think he's panicking because then they go to the hospital right before it's confirmed that the surgery is about to happen. He has a panic attack in front of the vending machines and in front of the elevators, where she has to essentially like talk him out of a panic attack, and he just keeps apologizing to her. And I was very confused as to why he's so sorry to her. But now, if this theory is true and he exchanged this transplant for her father's life's work, I think that is really what he's apologizing for, knowing she's about to find out that he played her and lose everything essentially, just to benefit the person who has been abusing her. Another reason why it makes so much sense to me that Raymond is Roger's dad, and that is how he even knew Andrew, is because as soon as Andrew learns that Raymond is Allie's stepfather, his attitude and his demeanor about Raymond completely changes. He even says that he kind of had a feeling that the CEO was kind of taking advantage of her, like in board meetings, but also potentially like sexually. I think that when he learns that that's really her stepfather, it changes something in him. He immediately equates Raymond to Mrs. Robinson, who essentially did the same thing to Andrew when he was 18 years old and he was at Roger's house one night. Even when Allie has the board meeting, when she's advocating for Khaleesa to not have her music used in an alcohol brand's commercial, he like stays with her and preps her for this board meeting, even though he has no idea anything about the music industry. He is basically giving her advice as to how to attack Raymond, and he basically tells her exactly what to do in order to get Raymond to look stupid and for the board to side with her. He even doesn't go to work and waits for her to get back just to hear how that went. It was obviously very important to him that she came out the victor in that situation, and he's like enamored by the fact that she actually did it. Like, she went in there and beat him at his own game essentially, and it was all thanks to Andrew. So I think it's very funny how invested he was even back then. Even at the New Year's Eve rooftop party that they are at, he seems to have way more knowledge about what it is that Allie does. He's giving her advice as to how to harbor relationships with the artists on her label and how to make them happy with her so that she is a good CEO when the time comes, and he helps her lock in the Hendrix brothers for when she is the CEO. She's already bringing in the band that she flew to LA for. She's gonna keep Calista. She's trying to get Bianca back. She has like the guarantee that she's gonna sign the Hendrix brothers and they're gonna have the relationship that Andrew basically like helped her present to them. And then we move on to the issue of the secret second phone. That threw me when we first read that like genuinely I thought for sure he was playing her, and unfortunately he might have been. In the secret second phone, she finds a lot of messages from, you know, the girls, but she also finds one text thread that has responses from Andrew in, and I personally believe that those text messages came directly from Raymond. When Andrew takes Allie to that indoor baseball game, she tells him that she knows about the phone, that she went through the phone, and then he smashes the phone, and then they go into the indoor sporting center and they run into Mrs. Robinson, which I think is so interesting that when all these secrets about him are coming up, it also goes hand in hand with the Mrs. Robinson scenes. And so I really think that those two in some way, shape, or form are connected to each other. When Andrew is being held back by his friend Peter and Mrs. Robinson has like her hands all over him, he starts screaming at her and using the wrong pronouns essentially. He doesn't say, "You can never touch me again." He says, "You're never gonna touch her again." And then Allie like clicks it in her head that he's really screaming about Raymond when he's yelling at Mrs. Robinson. So that is how it like first clicked in my brain that Mrs. Robinson and Raymond are like the same evil to Andrew and Allie, but also that they potentially have known each other or are very similar to each other, and that might be the connection to how Raymond learned about Andrew. And I do believe Andrew does have actual feelings for Allie. I think they are endgame. I think they are like star-crossed lovers, soulmates, but I do think that when those first round of text messages were coming in, we know that Allie was doing everything in her power to essentially push Andrew away and to get him to leave her first so that it wouldn't hurt as bad, because she was trying to get him to leave. And whenever the person on the other end of the messages was asking for like reassurance or like, what's the holdup, what's going on, that was during the times that they were not in a good spot. But once Ben leaves the penthouse and he smashes all the records and Andrew figures out that Allie is the one who wrote the lyrics that he has tattooed on him, and he realizes that she's not trying to manipulate him and like take advantage of him. She's essentially just like projecting her own insecurity onto him the same way he does to everyone. That is when he realizes like she really does love him, and they're good for a minute there. Like from that point on, I thought the book was gonna end, and then when I realized there was still 20% left, I knew we were going to be betrayed somewhere by something. My initial thoughts were Hunter was going to come and either kidnap Allie again, or he was gonna kill Andrew. During that very last text exchange, when the random person says to Andrew, "Are you still mine?" and Andrew says, "Yeah," right after that is when Allie has Brandon in the hot tub in the penthouse and she's trying to rush him out the door while Andrew's coming up the elevator. But once that scene happens with the records and he figures out like she's the writer of the song that he has tattooed on him, and she could have used that as like a trump card to be like, I own those words that are on your body already, and she never once used it to manipulate him. That is when he starts speaking in Italian and English, and he's essentially like confessing his love. And I'll put the translations up on the screen, but it's like very frantic and it's very like panicked, where he is basically saying like, I will do essentially anything if by the end of this I get to keep you. Essentially telling me that he knows once it all comes out that she is gonna freak out and it is not gonna be good for the two of them. Another reason I think that Raymond is Roger's father is because of the timeline of events, and this is very tricky to catch. I had to like reread it multiple times to even like place everything, and I still am hoping that I did this right and I didn't mess this up. But we essentially learn that the Mrs. Robinson chapter happens in 2014, which is like 10 years before the events of this book. This book, majority of it is happening in the fall and winter of 2024, and then those last few chapters happen on New Year's and then a few days after New Year's of 2025. But we essentially learn that 2014 is when Mrs. Robinson was left by her anonymous husband and then takes advantage of Andrew. We also know that during that time is when Allie's mother would have died, leaving Allie with Raymond. I have not like fully cooked this part of the theory up yet, but essentially to me the timeline matches. Like 10 years before, Andrew even says like it's been going on for 10 years since Raymond has been abusing Allie, and there are many references that Andrew says like for a decade. Like once that situation happened with Mrs. Robinson is when he became this like myth and this legend, and he started to give girls that like fantasy. He just keeps referencing a decade, 10 years. It just kept coming up in the books. So I just went back 10 years, and that is when we learn that Mrs. Robinson is left by her husband, who again I believe is Raymond. One of the main ones that I noticed when he says 10 years is when he's essentially comparing himself to Raymond. When he finds out that Raymond is her stepfather, he literally says, I'm a monster. I'm using that contract and using you just like he is, which right there should have been indication that something was going to happen. But that is also when we know Andrew starts to like unravel and compare like what Raymond had been doing to Allie to what Mrs. Robinson did to him, and he starts to like own himself again. Essentially he starts to defend himself and not want to be that version of himself. And that is also when Allie is becoming stronger in her role as future CEO and ready to basically take Raymond down. She wants nothing to do with him. She wants him all the way off the label. And I think he knew that, and that is why all of these things occurred for her. Okay, so that is essentially my theory as to why Andrew betrayed all of us at the end of Call Me Baby Side B. I do think he's redeemable. I think we will have an explanation. I think he has a plan as to how this is going to now work in Allie's favor. He got his mom the liver, and I think now he's going to be there for Allie and help her clean this mess up. I am petrified for the next book, genuinely. Usually I'm like, I can't wait for the next book. I am genuinely petrified to see what becomes of Allie, because my poor girl unfortunately has been proven correct. She finally let her guard down and Andrew betrayed her. Nicole, I have full faith in you, because I mean, I got the Julian Blackwell shirt on. Like, I know Nicole is going to give us an incredible series. Like, I read the first book and I thought it was just going to be a duology, and I was so freaking excited for that. But now when I like turn the page after that diabolical last page of side B and it said side C and D, the double album coming, I was like, thank God, because we are getting a whole series of Andrew and Allie, and I'm so freaking excited. Genuinely, no other author, and I mean this with my whole chest, no other author makes me feel feelings as big as Nicole Fiorina's books do. And I talked about this in a few other videos before, that her debut series, the Stay With Me series, literally got me through the pandemic. Like, literally, those books came to me at a time I really needed them. I fell in love with Ollie and Mia, and they genuinely saved me during the pandemic. I had the worst anxiety of my life during the pandemic. I had just gotten out of the hospital from being very, very sick, genuinely on my deathbed, and no books were hitting. I didn't want to read. I was very depressed. I was anxious because we couldn't leave the house, and those books genuinely saved my life. Like, I'm not trying to be dramatic. They genuinely did. And then I read Hollow Heathens. I was obsessed with Julian Blackwell, and then Stone Danvers. Oh my God. All of her characters make me feel so loud and so big and so like all encompassing, and I just know that Andrew and Allie are no different, and I'm so excited to see where this goes. I just think it's so cool how she structured this, and how when you look back, she essentially left like little breadcrumbs for exactly what was going to happen, and it didn't come together till that like very last page. I really did not see that coming. And as someone who genuinely does this or tries to do this with every book that I read, she really surprised me. This is my top read of the year. It's above Onyx Storm. It's above any other book I rated 5. It's above even side A. Like, and I read her note at the end where she said that her husband told her her readers are gonna hate her. I love this. This is giving me the same exact feeling I got when I read Releasing 10, and I wanted to go back in the books and see if I could piece together what was going to come next for Hugh and Liz. I am so happy to have another series to do this with, and with characters that I love so freaking much. Side A was the second book that I read in 2026. And I remember when I woke up and I saw that Nicole was putting out another book, it felt like Christmas all over again, because every time she releases a book, I just know I'm gonna get swept off my feet. Hands down, especially after reading side B, she is hands down my favorite author. I cannot wait for the next one, but I'm also terrified to receive the next one, because if we're gonna get a side C and D, that means bad things could happen all of the next book. With Allie, with Andrew, with Raymond, it could all go to hell, even worse than it already, what the hell we're in right now. It could be worse in the next book, which I am genuinely afraid for, because I just want my girl Allie to be happy. I want her to be happy so bad, and I feel awful for her, especially when Andrew came up and just wouldn't even look at her, wouldn't talk to her. I like felt that in my gut. I was listening to Crying by Aerosmith, and I was genuinely in tears. I could not believe that Andrew betrayed us. Of all of the people, of all of the things that I thought were gonna go wrong, I genuinely was waiting for Hunter to kidnap Allie. Or there's a line that she says where Andrew didn't want to be her fantasy, he wanted Allie to be his fantasy, and I thought that was really where we were going. Like, he essentially put his persona onto her and made her the idea that he like centered his world around, the way all the girls do to Andrew. I thought that was gonna be like the thing. I did not at all see it coming that Raymond was pulling the strings the entire freaking time, and he hired, and I'm like so mad about this, he hired Andrew to take Allie's parents' life's work away from her. Oh my god. And the scene where she has his guitar in the pool, sobbing. I was sobbing, and I had that song playing on a loop. Like the last 150 pages, I just put Crying by Aerosmith on a loop, and I was genuinely like in tears, and I can't believe that we're gonna have to wait for a third book for them to get a happy ending, because I was so upset at the end of side A when they didn't get their happy ending. I thought for sure, I was so excited to see them finally be happy and realize that they love each other, but no, Andrew is evil all of a sudden. I have been stressed about this since last night. I just need Allie to get away from everyone, take her millions of dollars and run away. Genuinely run away. I just want her to be happy. But then I'm thinking about all the Andrew chapters, and I want him to be happy too. He deserves to be happy too. I really hope he is redeemed. I'm scared though. Like, was he acting like that in front of Raymond for Raymond's sake? But they arrested her at the end. So like, is she going to jail? I mean, she's rich. Can she really go to jail? When the first half of the book was Allie really just pushing Andrew away, I thought the character of Elle, is it Ellie or Elle? Roger's ex-fiance, I thought she was gonna be like a bigger role in this book, and she was nowhere to be seen, and I was a-okay with that. I am genuinely devastated. Like genuinely devastated by this. Other than the devastation I felt, I just love the way Nicole Fiorina writes, and I love her descriptions of things. I love how in every scene I can genuinely like put myself there. When they're on the rooftop, I genuinely felt like I was on a rooftop in Dumbo, New York. So, or the descriptions of the penthouse and Andrew's like amazement with the penthouse. Even the scene where they're in her writing room and all the guitars are all over and she sees her dad's guitar. I was literally Googling every guitar, and I was just so visualizing myself there. I'm obsessed with Nicole's writing. I cannot get enough of it. I want to reread all of her books now. That is going to be it for this video. If you are interested in more discussions about all of my favorite books, I will put my social medias in the description below, and I will see you guys over there. But I am going to end this video here. If you have a favorite Nicole Fiorina book, let me know, and I will be seeing you guys in the next video. So bye guys.